Okay, it works. So, hello, I'm Alexandra Spalato. I'm developer relation engineer at Storyblock. I'm French, perhaps you hear it by my accent, and I live in Madrid. And I arrived from Spain. I took the plane at 6 a.m. and woke up at 4:40 to be here, and I'm super happy to be here on this stage, especially that because in another life I wanted to be an actress, so being on this stage is just amazing, but I never imagined I would be talking about programming and in English one day. So it's a bit like coming back to my roots and a bit like Remix, because Remix is using the roots too. It's using web standards to redefine modern web development. So first, let's dive into the evolution of web development. So web development is all about transforming data into HTML and delivering it to the browser for rendering. But let's take a trip down memory lane. Remember when everything was about server-side rendering? You make a request to the server, then the page would be rendered using a templating language and sent back to the browser. JavaScript was like the cherry on top, just used sparingly to have a dash of interactivity. But then, like a plot twist in a movie, JavaScript frameworks like React, Svelte, Angular, Vue, and meta frameworks like Next, Nuxt, Gatsby, and more came into the scene. And with them, the concept of universal JavaScript was born. This is like the superhero version of JavaScript. It can run on the server and on the browser. All right, so let's talk about the elephant in the room, the challenges we face in modern web development. Scalability. Our apps always need more user, more data, more complexity without crashing. New frameworks are popping up every week. It's like a fashion trend. So keeping up with the latest and the greatest can be time-consuming and yes, overwhelming. Performance. This is all about speed. Nobody likes a slow website. Browser compatibility. Our app needs to work across all browsers. UI and UX. This is all about our users. Developer experience. This is about us, developers. We want our app to be powerful, but also intuitive and enjoyable to use. Security. We need to keep our users' data secure. And certainly more. Okay, I'm not here to talk only about problems. I'm here to talk about solutions. So this is where Remix comes in. So who of you knows Remix or have already used Remix? Okay, and who doesn't know anything about it? Okay, a lot of people. And who want to try it? Ah, that's nice. Okay, so what's Remix all about? Imagine if a server-side rendered framework and React had a baby. This is Remix. It got the scalability of a chameleon. It can handle complex applications, but it can also scale down to the point where you don't even need JavaScript on the page. And the best part, it's built on web standards. So this is like speaking the native language of the web. It has a server client model, so you can filter the data from the server and only deliver to the browser the data that is needed. So that will improve your app speed and scalability. And it's built on web standards, so it's like a universal adapter working seamlessly across different browsers. JavaScript, it's used for UX. So it's like the icing on the cake. It enhances the user experience, but your app can totally work without it. It avoids over-abstractions. Learning a new framework can feel sometimes like learning a new language and discover it's only spoken on a tiny island. With Remix, you're learning the language of the web. So as you are becoming better at Remix, you're actually becoming a better web developer. And also by sticking to web standards and best practice, it helps to keep things secure. So now let's dive into how Remix streamlines our development process with web standards. First off, Remix loves URLs. URLs are the backbone of the web, the address of every little piece of content on the internet. Remix embraces this and uses URLs to manage routing and data loading. Next up, we have the Fetch API. This is your tool for data handling. And let's talk about HTML. It's the language of the web. It's been around since the dawn of internet. Remix uses HTML to its full potential. And last but not least, we have HTTP caching. By leveraging the browser's built-in caching mechanisms, Remix can drastically improve the performance of your web application. So let's talk about URLs in Remix. In Remix, they're kind of a big deal. They're not just addresses. They're the backbone of your web architecture. So imagine a URL as a path, and each segment of this path corresponds to a nested layout in your UI. In Remix, you can collocate your UI and data handling code in the same file. We're talking about full stack components. Remix also optimizes your client-side navigation. It knows which layout will persist between two URLs, so it only fetches the data for the ones that are changing. And on top of it, Remix can prefetch all resources for a page when the user is about to click a link. So next time you look at a URL, remember, in Remix, it's not just an address. It's a powerful tool that shapes your web architecture, optimizes your navigation, and streamlines your development process. So now let's dive into the Fetch API in Remix. It's like your personal postman, delivering data from the web to your app. It manages request and responses object, your outgoing and incoming data messages. And we also have headers, which are similar to the address on an envelope. They carry additional information about the request or response, like the destination or the type of data being sent. The fetch method takes your request, delivers your response, and can be called from anywhere in your app. Loaders in Remix are functions that fetch data from the server for your components. There is a backbone of your app's data flow. And in Remix, you can add requests, responses, headers, and fetch to your loader's global context. This means you can use them anywhere in your app, like you would in the browser. And lastly, we have also helper methods like JSON and redirect that streamline working with the Fetch API. So with the Fetch API in Remix, handling data is as easy as sending a letter. Okay, so now let's dive into data rights or mutation in Remix. The magic here is based on two basic stuff, HTML forms and HTTP. Again, Remix is taking us back to the basics, but with a modern twist. When we talk about creating, updating, or deleting data, in reality, we are talking about form submissions. And this is not just for a big, complex form like the user profile edit page. Even the small like buttons are forms in disguise. So we have the Remix form component that has some special feature to the usual HTML form. After a form submission, all the loader on the page automatically refresh. So it shows always the user the latest info without having to refresh the page. And with form, your page doesn't reload after a form submission, providing a smoother user experience. Then we can use hooks like use navigation that give us access to the pending form state, so we can build a user experience as smooth as butter. There you can think about loading indicators, optimistic UI, and all this good stuff. So in Remix, action functions look after form submissions, and loader functions take care of getting data. HTTP caching is a powerful feature that can really improve the performance of your web application. It's like giving a memory to your app. Instead of constantly asking data to the server, your app can remember some of it, reducing the load on your server and speeding up responses times for your users. In Remix, HTTP caching is used to its full potential. But what about updates? Well, HTTP caching in Remix is smart. It knows when to update the data. And this is where cache control comes in. You can define cache control headers right in your root modules. For example, you can set max age 300 to tell the browser to keep the cache data for 300 seconds. So with HTTP caching, your web app becomes faster, your server gets less stressed, and your user stays happy. It's a win-win-win situation. In this example, the headers function is exporting an object with a cache control property. The value of this property is a string that tells the browser how to cache the response. The max age directive specifies a maximum amount of time in seconds that the fetched response is allowed to be cached. In this case, it's set to 300 seconds or 5 minutes. So this code is essentially telling the browser, hey, you can store this response and use it for up to 5 minutes without checking back to the browser. And you can also find many other directives in MDN docs, because again, this is a web standard. So enough talk, and it's time to dive into code into an example. So I don't know about you, but for me, building a search has always been super tedious. Who like building global search? Oh, one person. Okay, and so when I build it with Remix, I find it so easy that I wrote a tutorial about it. So you have here, you can scan this QR code and have access to the tutorial and to the repo. And this is what we're going to explore now. So this is the small website I built for this tutorial about building a search in Remix. So we have a simple, two simple page, a home and an about page, and we have a blog, a few blog posts. And this is a single blog post. We have a title and content here. And here we have the search that open in a modal window. And so if I type my query, Remix, here, you can see that it redirects to a search results route, and it attaches the query to the URL. Okay, and in the back office, it's built with Storyblock, my favorite headless CMS. And here we can see that for the page, we have a body field. So we need to search if this query is present in this body field. And in the posts, we have a headline field, an image field, and a text field. So we want to check if our query is present in the headline or in the text or in the body for the page. And this is the code. This is the repo. So we have a search form with the form component. And this search form is inside a model that is built with headless UI. And we have an overlay that displays the word searching when the form is processing to give a better user experience, especially on slow networks. And we have a state controlling this open overlay. And then we have a search result route where we get the query from the URL and we filter it to display the result. So, okay, let's dive really on how this is built. So in my search form, I have this form component, and here I read that it behaves like a normal form, except that the interaction with the server is with fetch instead of new document request, and this is why our page is not reloading. Okay, it behaves like a normal form, but who remember how works a normal form? Okay, some people. And it seems that myself, I was not remembering exactly how it's working. So this is how I was doing it. I was using a method post, and then I was using an action in my root file, which is the parent root in Remix, to process this action, get the form data from the request, and then redirect it to the search result root and attaching the query to this URL. Am I doing right here? For the one who knows how a form works, is it that right? Okay, so I don't know how a form works, and it seems that nobody really knows, because this is not right. It works, but I'm doing manually what a form is doing naturally. By default, a form has a get method, so I don't need that. And I need here an action attribute to say where the form will be processed. So I want it to be processed in the search results. Okay, and now I don't need this action. I just need this. And naturally, it will redirect to the search results and process the form, and it will attach the query to the URL. So we are totally forgetting, we are complicating things. So then here, I'm using the use navigation hook from Remix to access the pending states. So I initiated here with use navigation, and then in use effect, I check the navigation state, which there is three states: submitting, idle, and loading. So if it's not idle, it means that it's processing. So I want to open my overlay and display the word searching. Otherwise, I close it. And when the navigation state is loading, I want also to close my model. Okay, so let's see now how it works in real. So I open the developer tools, and I'm going to simulate a slow network. Okay. So I open my model, and I see that the navigation state is idle. So I type my query, I enter, so it's loading, okay, it's searching, and okay. I have a bug here because my result at display, but my overlay, it's not closing. It seems that my navigation state is not going to idle. So I'm doing something wrong. Who knows what I'm doing wrong? Okay, so I had built that, and I was making it work. Somebody knows? No? Yes. What? No. So I was doing it like that, and I was making it work in another way, but I was feeling something was wrong. And in August, I was doing this talk at React Rally in Salt Lake City, and fortunately, I saw Ryan Florence and explained my problem. I said, oh, but you are using state and overcomplicating because your React instinct. So now I'm going to show you the right way, which is more simpler. And I think this is very interesting because we are overcomplicating. Even myself, when I want to show something simpler, I was doing it more complicated than needed. So, okay. This is the right way here. Okay. Okay, so here we don't need anything except the form. And this is where now I initiate my navigation. And we have everything in the navigation state. So we just create a is searching variable. So if the navigation state is not idle and the navigation location path name is search result, it means that the form is processing. We have this instinct to put everything in a state, and it's not necessary here. And so if it's searching, we display the overlay. And then if it's not searching, also we close the modal. And that's all. So we overcomplicate. And if we go back to the basic, there is many things that we don't need. Okay, now let's go back to the slides. And oops. Okay, so now we are redirecting to the search result, and we need to extract the query from the URL and then to filter the page and the post that are called story in story block. So for that, we extract the query from the URL, and for that we use the URL constructor, which is again a web standard, to create an object representing the URL defined by the parameters. And then these objects include the search param property, which provides utility methods to work with the query string of the URL. So from there, we extract our query. And now we are going to use the Storyblock API to filter the results. So we use get Storyblock API get, and here we get all the posts and pages, and we need now to filter them with the query. So here we use the filter query parameter to filter our story by the attribute, and we want to search if our query is contained in the body or in the headline or in the text field. And we use the like operator, and we add an asterisk before and after, because we want all the fields that contain our query. And also by default, the filter we apply are connected by the AND operator. But in this case, we want the OR operator. So for that, we use the --or keyword. And so here is all the code for our loader. So this is in the search results root. And we pass the filter parameter here to our request. And from there, now we have all our filtered stories. So from there, we have our filtered stories from Storyblock, and we want to display them. So now we just filter them by component, if it's a page or a post, and then we have all what we need to display them. And voila. How do you think it's more simple than the usual search form? Okay. So wrapping up, we've seen how using web standards in Remix makes building a global search a breeze. But it's not just about making our lives as developers easier, but also about delivering a top-notch user experience. With server-side filtering, HTTP caching, and all this good stuff, we are making our app faster and more efficient. JavaScript is here to enhance the user experience. And the best part, we're doing all this while sticking to web standards, ensuring our app is robust and future-proof. So it's a win-win situation for both developers and users. So let me know if you have questions. So find me outside. And here you can also win Egghead subscription by scanning this QR code as Storyblock organize the raffle until the 31st of December. So go for it. Okay. And here you have the slides, and you can access to the slides, to the repo, to the tutorial. I hope you like it. Thank you, and don't hesitate to ask me questions outside. Bye.
Thank you so much, Alexandra.